Happy Friday, North Texas. I'm Scott.
And I'm Alicia.
Today is Friday, April 25th, and we've got some great interviews for you today, folks.
That's right. First up, we're excited to talk about UNT's third annual Day of Giving coming up May 1st through the 2nd. Can't wait to hear what they have planned this year. Then we've got a great interview with UNT alumna and Spotify Chief Public Affairs Officer Dustee Jenkins, who recently returned to campus to share her story and a little inspiration with UNT students.
Excited to talk about all that, Alicia, but first, we have to catch up.
Scotty, you know what I want to talk about right now?
What's that?
How the people can get in touch with us. We always mention this at the end of the show, but the people are so busy, man, they can't always listen to the whole show, you know?
I do know, and that is a shame because that means they're missing the bloops.
That's right. Make sure you're enjoying the bloops at the end of every episode. And for anybody who may not have heard this yet, at the end of the episodes, we want to hear from y'all. Get in touch with us by emailing podcast@unt.edu or calling us at 940-565-4341. Let us know what you love about the show, what you think could be better, and what kind of stories you want us to cover.
And speaking of hearing from listeners, we're going to start posting polls when we put out new episodes to help us get a little better feel for our audience. I think it's only on Spotify. We're just starting to learn and experiment with this a little bit, but be sure to check that out and give us a little feedback so we can learn more about you guys.
I love this for us, Scotty. All right, back to the show. Tell us about this first interview.
With UNT's third annual Day of Giving coming up May 1st through 2nd, I sat down with Assistant Director of Annual Giving Daquan Allen to learn more about what they have planned and how people can get in on the fun this year. All right, Daquan, thank you for joining us for the podcast today to talk about the UNT's Day of Giving. We promoted Day of Giving last year on the podcast, but for anybody who hasn't heard that or hasn't heard about Day of Giving, give us a quick explainer of what it is.
Yeah, so Day of Giving is really an opportunity for the UNT community to come together and really show what they have a passion for on campus. You can give to any fund on campus. We have, some priorities listed from the colleges, but you also have the option to give to a fund not listed on the website. So we just encourage everybody to go to the website and see what the university has as priorities and give wherever your heart feels compelled to. Last year, we raised $770,000 from 2,500 donors, which was a 180% increase in donors from our first year and a 20% increase in dollars. So we were hoping to build off of that momentum this year and, kind of sustain that and also take it to a new level.
And I know last year there was like a competition element between the colleges, I think. Is that still going on this year?
Yeah, we had a college and department leaderboard, and so it has a donor component to it and also a dollar component to it, so you can see which college or department has the largest amount of donors and dollars throughout the campaign.
Okay. So people can donate to their colleges if they're alumni and want to help their college win. But then there are also other specific causes they can choose that they want to specifically donate to, right?
Yes. And so you can give to causes under colleges, and that'll count toward that leaderboard. And you can give to different athletic teams, and they also have their own competition where it's kind of all the teams pitted against each other to see who can raise the most in that way. And so, yeah, you can choose anywhere to give, and it'll count toward that.
So this is the third annual. Is there anything new going on with it this year? Any new features or anything?
This year, our theme is superheroes, and we really want to embody that. We want the donor to feel like a superhero. They're making a change for students and campus life. And so that's, really permeated out through all of our messaging. We also have a Day of Giving celebration at Eastside this year. That'll be May 1st from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's an over 21 event just because it is, at the local bar. But 10% of the proceeds from that night will go back to the campaign. So that's something new that we're trying to incorporate.
Nice. So Giving Day is May 1st through 2nd, but there's also early giving leading up to that, right?
Yeah, so early giving started April 1st. It's live right now. You can navigate to the website and really give now and see what the options are. You can see progress towards in those challenges. So, yeah, early giving is underway, and it'll go up until May 1st, and then it'll actually go live that day.
Okay. And then is there any, incentive or difference between donating, in the early giving period versus on actual Day of Giving?
I think the biggest difference is when you give early, you get the opportunity really to talk about that opportunity to give on social media more. Is kind of the biggest thing. We have a U+2 for people who sign up as an ambassador to the campaign. And so if you give early and sign up as an ambassador and you get people to give through your ambassador link, there's an opportunity to get UNT swag. So we have like a little gift bag with a Day of Giving shirt, some Day of Giving memorabilia, and then some more UNT swag. So I think that's the benefit of giving early, because you get a larger opportunity to get people to give through your link.
And then for anybody who might be listening to this after May 2nd, but they still want to give, what's the best way for them to give to UNT?
one.unt.edu is the best way to give if you missed the Giving Day link. That is our general giving, to where you can kind of find similar to everything or similar to what's available on the Giving Day website. That's the place to give.
You know, people can give all year round. So what's the kind of drive or reason to focus on the Day of Giving? Like what was kind of the impetus for it?
So really, we wanted something to showcase impact, and since it is our third year, we're still working on it, how we want to really do that. But we want to be able to be like, Giving Day afforded us the opportunity to award 5 more scholarships next year. And so really to show impact of philanthropy through the university, it's a time for also departments and colleges on campus to say what they've been working on and how that's impacted students. So it's really an outward-facing way to showcase philanthropy at the university. We also have challenges throughout the Day of Giving, and so those challenges are major gift donors coming up and saying, hey, you know, I want my gift to encourage 10 more people to give, 100 more people to give. And so that also creates some exigency behind donations during the time. But I think challenges and really showcasing the impact of philanthropy are the biggest reasons Day of Giving makes sense.
And with the challenges, I seem to remember last year there was like reach so much to like unlock something. Is it like that? What are some of the challenges on there this year?
So athletics has 3 leaderboard challenges for all of their sports teams, and what that looks like is whichever sports team, say for instance, raises the most dollars, that unlocks $3,000 for that team that raised the most. College of Music has one where if they get 150 donors throughout the campaign, that unlocks $333,000 to their college. So challenges are kind of set up like that. And there's so many more. You got smaller challenges where it's a $500 match, or $12,000 is unlocked when we get 10 donors. So there's opportunities to make impact all across campus throughout these challenges.
They unlock like the $333,000. Like, where's that money coming from?
Those are coming from major gift donors.
Okay.
So we work with them ahead of the campaign to say, hey, we want to use this gift as a challenge to unlock toward the campaign. And they're like, you know, some donors say yes, some donors say no. But when we're able to use it towards the campaign, then that's where how those challenges are created.
Okay. So it's kind of bigger donors trying to incentivize other donors to get in on Day of Giving.
Yes.
Cool.
I'm so very excited to see the results of Giving Day, and I love the gamification with the challenges donors can unlock and the leaderboards on the website.
Yeah, as we record, it looks like the College of Music is in the lead for total donors, and College of Engineering is way out in front for dollars raised so far in the early giving period.
Whoop, whoop.
Check the show notes for the link, or visit givingday.unt.edu to see the updated leaderboard.
And while you're there, look for a fund you want to support or challenge you want to help unlock. It's a great way to give back and support our students. Speaking of supporting students, why don't you tell us about Dustee Jenkins, Scotty?
Well, Dustee Jenkins graduated from UNT in 2001 and has had a pretty remarkable career in communications. She now serves as the Chief Public Affairs Officer for a little underground company called Spotify. Maybe you've heard of it. She recently returned to campus so she could talk to students about her career and provide a little inspiration to show them how far a UNT degree can take you. Dustee, you came to UNT to study journalism. What made you choose UNT?
I grew up in a really small town in West Texas, and I had, through high school, spent some time in New York City with my mom, which always sounds really glamorous when I say that to people, but really meant my mom and I lived in a bedroom and shared a bed, so a little less glamorous than it sounds. But I had really fallen in love with city life, and so I, growing up in a small town, wanted to be closer to a city. And so I really narrowed my search to kind of the DFW area. I looked at Houston, but decided pretty quickly, given the distance from my hometown, that Houston was a bit of a non-starter. And so I started looking at North Texas because I was very interested in journalism. And so as I understood their journalism program, it was pretty rigorous. You wrote for their school paper. They had some pretty storied professors. And so when I came out for a college visit, I will never forget, I ended up getting pink eye. And so I almost toured. North Texas was one eye closed basically the entire time. But I was quite certain after that visit that I wanted to go to school there. I had a chance to meet with a journalism student during my visit, and that changed the game for me. I remember being just so blown away by her. She talked about that experience. She talked about how rigorous the program was, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah. You talked about knowing you wanted to do journalism. Did you see yourself going like the corporate kind of public affairs route, or were you picturing like being a reporter at a newspaper type of thing?
I actually wanted to be a journalist in terms of a reporter. And so I loved writing, but I also loved talking. And so I really had this fascination with Katie Couric. And I sort of wanted to be in front of a camera, telling the story, breaking the news. And then I took a number of classes in which I had to haul around a camera on campus and cut my own footage. And so I was quickly like, whoa, I don't know about this. This was a little different than what I thought it would be. And then through North Texas, I got an internship at NBC5 in Dallas. That's part of the program, is that they want you to actually get out there and experience it. And to be honest, there were really great people working there, but I didn't love it. And because I was kind of the low person on the totem pole, like I was covering like all the pretty negative stuff. And I also found that for me, that was a bit of a downer, and I didn't like that aspect of it either. And so I remember feeling like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? But fortunately, that happened early enough for me to say, okay, I've got all these great skills. How do I put them to good use? Mm-hmm. And so I chose initially to go and do that through politics, but I was always really certain that I wanted to do something related to storytelling and writing.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of your career experience that got you to where you are today?
It's been a bit of a wild ride so far, and I'm 25 years in, so I do feel like at this point I can honestly call it a real journey. But I actually started my career in Washington, D.C., and so I really had experienced 9/11 and said, wow, that happened. I want to do something. I don't like that I'm sitting on the sidelines. And I wasn't going to sign up for the military. I didn't know in what way I could participate. And so I became very fascinated with this idea of going to Washington, D.C., and being a part of like the epicenter of where this was all unfolding and what was happening around the world. And you have to remember, for those that don't remember 9/11, it was followed very quickly by a series of other events. And so there was anthrax, there was a ricin poisoning situation with the Capitol. And so these like major public crises were playing out right and left. And I decided to run right toward that, which terrified my poor parents. But I started my career working for Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison of Texas. I started at the very bottom, working in the mailroom, answering the phones, and then ultimately worked my way up and into her press office, which was really a dream job of mine. Senator Hutchison, obviously a Texan, but had a journalism degree and had been a reporter. And so she really understood my craft on top of doing incredible policy and being a great representative of Texas. And so I went and worked for her, and I just learned a ton. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about hard work. I learned a lot about compromise and collaboration. Senator Hutchison was part of this group of female senators, and they would caucus together, meaning they would work together, even if they were in different political parties. Mm-hmm. And it was this beautiful thing to watch. They would have these dinners, and they would come out of these dinners, and they would tell you as a staff member what they had agreed to. And the interesting thing is, a lot of times they couldn't stand together at a podium because the idea of Senator Clinton and Senator Hutchison standing at a podium would have been problematic for some of the constituents of Texas. But they would work behind the scenes to support issues. And these issues were related to five-star families, military families. They were related to the Amber Alert with Amber Hagerman being from Texas. And so they caucused together to get a bunch of stuff done that frankly would have gotten stuck. And so I was really grateful for that learning and how important compromise and collaboration was. And then after that, I went and worked in the Bush administration. And so I had a chance to go be the head of communications for the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, also from Texas. He was from Houston. There's a trend here. And so I really enjoyed him so much. He is a marvelous man who had this really rich history. He had marched on the Pettus Bridge. He had a dog bite in his leg from the time they let the dogs go. Like, he was quite vocal about civil rights. And he worked for the Bush administration and believed in helping with areas like homelessness and helping communities with blighted neighborhoods. And so I really toured the country with him and got to see up close and personal how important it is for us to support our communities and the core of our urban areas, because if not, that's the center, that's the heartbeat of a city. And if that fails, then the city around it fails. And so I got to experience that with him. And then I actually went into consulting and did a number of wild things. I did everything from, a spin out of a big tech company. I did a green chemicals company that wanted to IPO. I worked on an insider trading case. I worked on a couple of high profile bankruptcies. And that brought me to Target, the great American retailer. And so Target got involved in a proxy challenge with Bill Ackman. And so I got to be a part of that team that helped shepherd the company through that and work directly with the CEO. After that experience and working with him for a bit, he and his team invited me to come in-house and run communications. And so I was at Target for about 7.5 years and loved that. Great learning. Lived in Minnesota. My kids were born in Minnesota. And then after that, I ended up going to work for Spotify, which is where I am now, which is a dream job, a fun role. And I was brought on actually to list the company when they decided to list publicly on the New York Stock Exchange.
Nice. I want to ask about Spotify, but first, kids born in Minnesota, what was going from Minnesota to New York City like for them?
So it's so funny. It was really important. My husband is also a Texan. And so we wanted them to have this connection to Texas, but we lived in Minnesota, and Justin had joined a Minnesota law firm. I was working for Target. It's a beloved company in Minnesota. And so when they were both born, we did something wild. We went to our doctor and we asked if we could put dirt under the hospital bed so that our kids could technically be born on Texas soil. And so he was like, wait, you want to put dirt under a hospital bed? And I was like, yeah, it's a thing if you're from Texas, but you don't get to live there to have your baby. And he was like, operating rooms, delivery rooms are sterile places. And I was like, don't worry, the dirt will be in a canister. I'm not going to sprinkle it out. And he looked at me and he was like, is this religious? And I was like, basically, Texas is a religion, even if you don't know it. So they were born in Minnesota. But obviously my parents still live here. My in-laws still are in Texas. They're in the Austin area. And so we find many different ways to instill a little bit of Texas in them.
That's nice. So now at Spotify, Chief Public Affairs Officer, what's kind of your day-to-day like there?
My day-to-day at Spotify can be quite wild in the sense that it's a little unpredictable. You never know what the day is going to be, and that's because of the nature of the role. So my role is with Chief Public Affairs. I lead government affairs, and so that means every law getting written around the world about tech companies, about music streaming, about how broadcast companies are handled, about online safety. I'm looking at all of these laws, in addition to thinking about laws that I think are necessary for us to operate successfully. And so that's one facet. I kind of think about it as a four-legged stool. The other part of my job is the PR and communications. That's the fun, glossy part that gets a lot of attention. And so we partner with artists to do album release parties. We just did one with Lady Gaga. She released her new album. We will work with different groups to tell their stories. We will partner on major community events. We do a Best New Artist party related to the Grammys. So that part of my role really enables me to use my creativity and use the fundamental skills that I learned here at North Texas related to storytelling and writing and journalism. And so that piece of the job is the piece that I honestly know the best, but probably the piece I spend the least amount of time on because I know it, the team that has it really has it. And then the third area that I have is this area called trust and safety. And so it's making sure our platform at Spotify is a safe place. And we are working to understand laws around the world, to understand how we should write policy. And there are the laws and then there are policies. And our goal at Spotify is to have a lot of different voices, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different opinions from all over the world. And so even when you look at the music catalog, Like it's this diverse catalog of all these different musicians and artists from all over the place. And what's incredible is because of streaming, a lot of them are finding success outside of even their home countries. And so that part of my team is looking to create the right policies to allow creators to thrive and grow, and at the same time to keep our users safe. And so obviously we've all, read the news. There are topics like misinformation and disinformation, all these things playing out. And so, but at Spotify, we've decided, we want a lot of voices on the platform. And then last but not least, they also give me a portion of events and content production. And I always joke with the team, it's because a lot of what we do is so heavy. They want to make sure that I still get to have a little fun every now and then. But when you mash all four of those things together, I never know. I get up in the morning because I'm part of a European company to understand what's happening in Europe very early. And sometimes it's pretty quiet. And sometimes there's a lot going on. And so I just really never know. I have a day planned with lots of meetings, and I might be meeting with government officials one moment, hearing from my team about an event they're going to host the next, and then doing a major brief on an announcement we're going to make. And all of that gets thrown up in the air because someone decided to do something. Yeah. And so I've just learned to live a little bit in the chaos and be okay with it because that's the job.
Yeah. I want to go back to your time on campus. You were very involved on campus as a student in T40, student government, all that. Who or what do you feel kind of made the most impact on you? I'll remind you, Dr. With is right there.
I love it. Yes, there is no question that Dr. With was a huge part of my experience at North Texas. And I will say, just taking a big step back, one of the great things about my university experience is because I came from this small town, I didn't know anyone. Lots of people enter college with friends. I didn't have any friends that were coming to North Texas. And so even when it came to my roommates, it was very much what friends I was going to make. And so I knew that it was on me. If I wanted to make friends and I wanted to have a network and if I wanted to enjoy college, I had to get out there and find them. And so immediately when I got here, I had an aunt who was a Chi Mega. I wanted to join a sorority because I was it's a great way to meet people. I also heard that they have tutoring, that they focus on helping you with academics. I also heard it's a great way to forge this network. And so I went through a sorority rush and joined Chi Mega, and I'm super grateful. Those friends are friends I'm going to have for my entire life. In fact, one of my maid of honor, one of the people in my wedding 15 years ago, was at the event last night with the students that we got to host. And so I'm super grateful for that. And then I really built from there. I was interested in student government because I was interested in government. And so I got involved with that and had a chance to be the vice president of the student body, which was pretty incredible. And then NT40 is a great way to be an ambassador on behalf of the university. I was super proud of being a part of the university. And so to be able to share that with other students, prospective students, that was very interesting to me. And so if there was some way that I can make a difference and make friends, I was ready to sign up. And then I would mention Dr. With and people like Dr. Pohl, who since passed. I had this group of administrators who saw this spark in me to have this desire to make this impact. And instead of saying go sit in your student corner, they found ways to incorporate me in every aspect of the university life. And so I even went to work for Dr. With, helping her with summer orientations. I worked for Dr. Pohl doing an entire project about how to improve the homecoming experience, how to think about alums, because I was going to soon become one. And so I, when I had this goal, rather than sort of saying you're a student, go be a student, they found ways to tap into that hopefully were good for the university. But I made friends for life, but more importantly, I developed confidence. I learned how to push for things that matter to me in a respectful way. I learned how to disagree and commit. I also learned that sometimes you can want something really badly, but it doesn't make sense right now. And so an example of that is that we were going to build a university rec center. And so my college president and I ran on the platform of getting students more involved on campus. We felt like the campus experience was such an important one, and we wanted students to have a place to hang out. And the University Union is a great spot, but the reality is a lot of it is meeting rooms. And so we wanted more of a casual hangout, workout space would be great. And so we needed state funding for that. And so that gave me sort of my first taste of lobbying the government to try to secure that state funding. There was a legislator who was tied to North Texas by the name of Tony Goolsby, who was a great friend and mentor to me. And so he was one of the legislators that I lobbied for this piece of legislation. I even got to go and testify before the state of Texas, which was pretty incredible. The interesting thing about the rec center is we would never see it built. Yeah. And so even though we were lobbying for the funds and we thought it was very necessary, it was sort of like, not right now. Yeah. It's just not going to happen right now. And so we didn't get to enjoy it. But today, my kids are traveling with me. They got to go rock climb.
I was going to ask you, was that kind of a nice full circle moment?
I'm so excited. It was such a full circle moment. I told my kids, I was like, you're going to a building that mommy helped get built. My kids are a little like, whatever, we just want to rock climb. But I was very excited.
That's awesome. So very successful career, mother of two, so I'm sure you're incredibly busy. But I heard you mention a couple times yesterday that you badgered Dr. With for the opportunity to come here and talk to classes and talk to students. Why is that so important to you to come back here and make time for something like that?
The reason why I feel so strongly about talking to students is because I want them to know I grew up in this small town. I know many of the North Texas student population are first-generation college students. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes we will limit ourselves when the world is ready to be our oyster. And I think if you can see people who have found success, who come from where you came from, mm-hmm. you'll know it's possible. And so I get to spend a lot of time in this role at Spotify. We work with young people a lot. There are a lot of Gen Zers on Spotify. I'm sure that does not shock you. And so I spend a lot of time on college campuses doing events and activations, talking to school groups. But this is my school. Yeah. And so there's something very special about coming home. But I more than anything wanted to talk to the Chi Megas and the journalism students and the student government students to say to them, you know, I'm still going. Keep going. Yeah. Like, you can do anything you want to do. And maybe you don't want to work for a tech company. Maybe you want to go into real estate or work for your family business. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur of some kind. Maybe you want to buy a small business. Whatever you want to do, like, just go do it. I think so often we spend a lot of time in our own head, mm-hmm. like talking about what we're going to do, thinking about what we're going to do. And one of my messages for the students this week was start. Yeah. You got to start. Like, I went to Washington, D.C. I pounded the pavement. I started. I didn't start in the role I wanted. I started at the very bottom, but I started, and you just got to start.
Yeah. And then you mentioned coming home. What's your favorite part about coming back to campus and coming back to Denton?
Well, I'm going to go have Mexican food tonight, and I am very excited about it. Nice. My Tex-Mex fix is something I've been dreaming about for weeks, and so I can't wait. But on the whole, coming back to campus, it's so special because it's the same and different. Yeah. You know, there are some buildings. I walked into the building where I worked as a student yesterday and had lunch with the president, who was so kind to host me. And I felt all the nostalgia. And I said to Elizabeth as we were walking up, do you remember we lined this hallway with balloons? And we had this incredible student who was an opera singer, who is a friend of ours, perform each week for parents during the parent association. And so that brought back that flood of memories and all the fun that I got to have as a student, connecting in different ways. And then there are new beautiful buildings and lots of new faces. And so to meet those people, to see their enthusiasm, it just reminds me of how exciting a college campus can be.
Yeah, I was going to ask what hit the nostalgia button for you, and then what's the biggest surprise change that you noticed?
It's definitely bigger. And so I knew it would get bigger. It's wild to think of how many students attend North Texas now. And so I do think the buildings, in many ways, it looks modern and different, mm-hmm. and then they look the same if you go into certain ones. I think what I love to see is the eagerness of the students yesterday. Yeah. Like that desire to learn, that commitment to like be on time at class, to ask really great questions. I got great questions from the students. And I also got to do a Q&A with the student government president, and he was fantastic. And so I just think that curiosity that I felt so much as a student of like what's out there, I felt that very acutely. And so even though the buildings felt a little bit different, it's that spirit that sort of felt very much the same.
All right, so wrap up. What's if you could leave students with one piece of advice? I know you got to talk to a few students yesterday, but for anybody listening to this who didn't get to hear you, what's your one piece of advice for students?
My one piece of advice for students, it's a big question. When I think back on my time here and I look at where I am today, I ended up getting all these letters of recommendation from my time here at North Texas that I think was the difference maker as I was applying for that very first job on Capitol Hill. I'll never forget, I was closing out the interview, sitting on the steps of the Capitol because the building was closed for anthrax. And the chief of staff said to me, "All right, we'll let you know." And I thought to myself, oh, I've got that ACE card in my pocket. I've got all those letters of recommendation that I earned, and I hounded people to write for me, and I haven't shown him that yet. And so I said, oh, just in case it's between me and another candidate, I would just love to show you. I come highly recommended. And I was only able to do that. I was only able to pull out that ACE card and get that job, I believe, because of my time here on campus, because I got involved, because I built connections, because I made friends, because people were willing to stick their neck out there for me. And so I think that we are all given opportunities. Everyone is invited to attend class every day. If you're a student here, you can join any organization that you want, most of them at no cost. It's up to you to decide what things you do and don't take advantage of. The opportunity is yours. It sits right there in front of you, but no one can make you walk through it. And so my piece of advice to students is, you are all given this opportunity, this time on campus, and it's a small, finite amount of time. Go make the most of it. Have friends that will show up 25 years later to cheer for you. Have relationships with administrators. Build connections with your professors so that when you're looking for that next job and you need someone to say, I know that person and I will vouch for that person, they're the first in line. That doesn't happen if you don't go get it, if you don't earn it, if you don't work for it. Also, people who will allow you to make mistakes and learn and grow in safety. That happens because you build this sense of community on campus. And so no one's going to stop you if you want to park your car and show up to class and go home. But instead, you could make friends, make connections, and have this remarkable experience. And so my advice is take advantage of every opportunity, because someday you won't have them anymore.
That's great. Thank you again, Dustee, for taking the time to not just talk to us, but talk to our students. Can we get a Go Mean Green?
Go Mean Green. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I'm such a fan of Dustee's story. Going from a little town in West Texas to this high-power international job, it's giving girl boss energy.
Yes, she is definitely a very driven person, and we can't thank her enough for being so generous with her time, not only for the podcast, but more importantly, to talk to our students.
All right. Well, it's just about time to wrap up this episode. But before we do, it's Q&A time, baby. What are we talking about today, Scotty?
Our question today is, who at UNT made the biggest impact on you? Could be a professor, a staff member, an administrator, a classmate, or Lucky the albino squirrel.
That's a very good question. I would say my film professor, Travis Sutton. He helped me appreciate films on a deeper level. And he also allowed me not only to understand what's going on in a film, but to really digest how it makes me and those around me feel when we're watching. I've become a true cinephile because of him, and movies have become even more of a joy to partake in because I understand the effect it can have on people. Definitely take his class if you have the opportunity. He is awesome, and so are his teaching methods. What about you, Scott?
Well, I've said it again and again, but the study abroad trip to Germany was so big for me that I'm tempted to say Carmen Terry, aka Frau Terry. She's a real one. She was our professor for that trip, and for most of my German classes I took for my minor. Having that many classes with one professor is definitely going to make an impact. And then honorable mention has to go to Nan Goplerud. I had her for a couple of my 3000 level journalism classes and definitely didn't appreciate it at the time, but she made sure we built good habits and a strong work ethic. Our guy Anthony took this question out to campus to get the student perspective for us.
If you could name one faculty or professor, whoever, that you'd like to give a shout out to, who would it be?
Professor Robert Upchurch. He's been really great this semester with working with the students and helping us get better at our writing.
Definitely Todd Lang. He's one of the greatest advisors I've ever met with, talked with. Super intelligent guy. Gave me a lot of great advice for pre-med and just life itself. So, great guy.
My counselor, Ashley Artuda. She's the best counselor I've ever had. She told me everything I needed for this year, and I brought up a lot of outside concerns, and she got me situated everything that I needed. So, definitely her.
I'll do Professor Sarkar.
Sarkar?
he's for computer engineering because I majored in computer engineering. So he's one of the best professors. He teaches very good, and he also sometimes if we need help. There's also office hours, and sometimes he also he's good at helping a lot of students in our classrooms. He teaches very good, and he teaches a lot of coding.
Well, now that you've heard from us, we want to hear from you. Tell us who at UNT made the biggest impact on you by emailing us at podcast@unt.edu or calling us at 940-565-4341.
And don't forget to tell a friend about the show, share it on social media, or leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. Until next time, we hope you have a happy Friday, North Texas.
And go Mean Green.
Happy Friday, North Texas is a production of the University of North Texas. Today's show was produced and edited by Scott Brown with original reporting by Scott Brown and Anthony Simone. For more information, visit unt.edu/podcast. Happy Friday, North Texas. I'm Scott. You weren't ready for it.
I was so happy.
And speaking of hearing from listeners, we're going to start posting polls when we put out new episodes to help us get a little bit. We're just learning. I can't talk. She now. Was that corny? Did that sound all right?
No, that sounded good. I was
All right.
scared my giggle sounded like it was like mischievous. I liked it. I thought it sounded good. I forgot that I needed
All
to
right.
pay attention. Going from a little town in West Texas to this high, powerful. Okay, yeah, cut that out. Cut that little noise out. That was awful.
Well, I've said it again and again, but the Stoddy.
Dude, we slayed. We slayed. Sorry, words.
All right. Bye, girl.
Bye.